The Celtics are less than 3 days away from a preseason game over in Abu Dhabi against the Denver Nuggets. And for some reason, that disrespect just keeps on coming. We're going to let you know all about it on today's episode of the Celtics Pod. Yo, so they win a championship. They come into the offseason. Everybody's questioning, oh, it was an easy run, blah, 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 all bullshit excuses just to talk about the Celtics in a negative light, whatever. You have the Jayson Tatum stuff over with Team USA in Paris. You have the Jaylen Brown stuff with Team USA in Paris. All that seems to have died down. The Knicks go and make a move to bring in Karl-Anthony Towns, and all of a sudden they're the best team in the East. Forget the Celtics. And it's not just been one guy. It's been a couple of different people wanting to spout off some hot takes because apparently that's what sells now, and I'm not for it. So I wanted to dive in today, and I think one of the first things to do is to just read out this quote from Kendrick Perkins, who puts together some awesome graphics. So anyone watching on YouTube, you'll see this pop up right now. When it comes to the New York Knicks, they're ready to make the Boston Celtics and the rest of the league smell their cologne. Wow. Okay, Perk, I get it. Cologne can be cheap, though. Cologne don't have to smell good, though. You know what I'm saying? You could go buy some $100, $120 cologne that smells like ass. So, what are we smelling right now? I mean, come on. Let's be real. Tim, man, where you at with this, man? Because to me, this is like such a weird quote to give. Like, smell their cologne. I've smelled some dog shit cologne in my time.
I with that one in particular, originally, to be fair, before I went and found that tidbit, because that dropped, I want to say like maybe a day or so ago, because this is on the heels of that Karl-Anthony Towns trade.
Yeah.
But we were originally going to use a bit before where you talked about, I think that the Knicks could have the best record in the East if they play Julius Randle at the 5. And I think if he buys in, like, it's going to change everything. And then he goes ahead and drops this gem. And I'm like, well, I got to use this one. Like, this one's way better. And he's just going on a rant talking about how the Knicks are going to put the rest of the league on notice. And granted, they've made a lot of really good moves. And we've acknowledged, especially on our last episode, of the moves that the Knicks have made to put themselves into that upper echelon of not only NBA, but the Eastern Conference in particular, and could really push the Celtics and challenge them. That being said, that team hasn't done anything yet. That team's got no hardware. They've got nothing to show for it. The last time that they won an NBA championship, was Vietnam era. So, what are we doing here? Immediately, immediately taking
microwaves were just becoming a thing, dude.
Seriously.
Color TVs were like all the rage. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. I want to say this, look. The Knicks are going to be good. But one thing that people are sleeping on right now, and you could say that OG's been there since December, because technically he has, but he's been injured. They've got 3 guys that they've got to gel into this roster. They lost one of their most productive contributors in DiVincenzo. It's not going to be super easy, and they play a very, very specific style of basketball. But for me, this disrespect isn't so much just that, the Knicks are going to make everybody smell their cologne. It's, dude, the Celtics dominated last year. They were first in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, had a historic net rating. But all of a sudden, the Knicks, because they bring, what about the Sixers? Are we not even looking at the Sixers now because of Paul George being there? Are we not looking over at Milwaukee? You guys could figure it out. Cleveland, they were in the semifinals of the conference final.
The Pacers are right there.
The Pacers, the conference finalists. We ain't even speaking. Look, I did my power rankings over on the Celtics Chronicle yesterday. Links in the description. Sign up, show some love. I had the Knicks at second in the power rankings. So obviously I'm quite high on what they can do. But they're going to make everybody smell their cologne. And like you said, there's been no success there for a minute. They're not exactly battle-tested on deep postseason runs. You've got the questions over, the way Tibbs runs guys into the ground minutes-wise. Dude, we probably will smell some cologne, but I'm not guaranteeing it's going to be good. I just don't see it. And I don't understand what the point was of this quote, other than to be like, oh, well, they're going to be better than the Celtics. It's a way of saying it and disrespecting Boston without disrespecting Boston directly, which is new for ESPN because they've been disrespecting them blatantly all summer.
Well, and especially with the idea of they're going to be on the Celtics next, and it's yeah, they should be. They went ahead and they traded all of these assets for Mikal Bridges, and then they went out and they pulled off this Karl-Anthony Towns trade. The Knicks have gone ahead and remade their roster overnight, and they deserve all of their flowers for that. Good for them. But again, championships aren't won on paper. And actually, I think this segues great into the next quote too that we had from none other than Bobby Marks, who went ahead and what was the exact phrasing of it? It was right now this New York team is great on paper, the best on
This New
paper.
York team, their starting five is the best starting five in the NBA on paper. Bullshit. I'm sorry, but bullshit. You cannot say that. Okay, on paper, maybe you can make an argument, but let's just look at this. Jayson Tatum is a top 7, top 5 guy in the NBA. He's above Jalen Brunson. That's what I'm getting at, right? Even if you have Brunson just behind Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown comes directly in next, right? As soon as you've got Jaylen Brown, Porzingis probably comes in before you get to an OG or a Mikal Bridges, just in terms of raw talent, where we rank these guys 1 through 450 in the NBA, right? The Celtics have the best top 3 out of the 2 teams. They also have Drew Holiday, who's arguably the best 2-way guard in the NBA. You have Derek White, that's right next to him as like the 1B best 2-way guard in the NBA. Then you have Jason and Jalen, both all NBA level guys. Tatum is in his own right, quote unquote superstar or around that level. Brown is right below that. Then you have Al Horford, who's one of the best big men in the NBA still. I think I saw an article the other day putting him in the top 10, and he's 38. You've got Sam Hauser, who's a shooting specialist, Peyton Pritchard, that's a shooting specialist. The bench, New York's bench might be slightly deeper. They might have like 1 or 2 pieces more on that bench. But starting 5, if we're just talking pure talent, nah, bullshit. If we're talking fit, it's too early to say. We haven't seen this team play together the way we have Boston. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's Bobby Marks and he's still sore from getting absolutely destroyed by Danny Ainge. So he's like, yo, I'm never picking Boston for shit. But you're a Nets GM. What are you doing picking the Knicks for anything? Like, you're in a rock and a hard place. Just be quiet.
That's a tall order. And I'm glad you said something about the Nets trade, because that was the first thing that came to mind. Is every single time that I see somebody on ESPN say something bad about the Celtics or have some kind of slight against them, I'm like, what's the history here? And it's like, oh, okay. Paul Pierce stole this guy's lunch money for 15 years. Or, oh, this guy got robbed by Danny Ainge. Like, of course he's going to have issues with the Celtics in this roster. And it's just, it gets tiresome. And I think especially with Marks, again, this is one of the best capologists in the NBA. Like he's a big cap guy. That's the reason why he was a GM for so long. And for a long time, he was like the longest tenured member of the Nets front office. So like, this is a guy who has been established and has been around for a while. But to have such a strong take right out of the gate feels extremely preemptive, especially when you consider, again, the health of that roster, guys being able to stay healthy. Jalen Brunson, that team made it to game 7 of the semis, almost made it to the conference finals. And they were doing it like with the brakes, the wheels falling off, out of gas. Like that team was running to the ground. And it's Tibbs. I like Tibbs a lot, but like you have to question his methods of coaching, or at least his rotations, because these guys are just falling apart by the time you get down to it. And it's great that these guys want to play that hard. Like Josh Hart in particular, just absolute warrior, playing through everything, playing as many minutes as possible. But the entire reason why the Celtics had the run that they had was because they had enough personnel and they had the right coach in place to manage not only these guys' minutes and like rotations, but keeping them as fresh as possible in order to do what they did in the playoffs, which was dominate. And I just don't know if from like a Knicks perspective, if I would even bother trusting Tibbs to do that, because it's not something that's ever been his MO. And it's either you have to get lucky and,
I'm going to back him up a little bit. I think he's got them playing great basketball. I think that if you've got conditioning there and he's playing the guys he trusts. Now, if he can only trust 7 or 8 guys, that's not really on him. That's on the front office for not giving him the extra 9, 10 to trust, right? He's playing guys that are going to help him win. Your job as a front office is to give him more guys that he can trust to play throughout this season. So, but I do also agree that, there needs to be a point where you start trusting some of these lesser talents for spot minutes. Joe Mazzulla did that all through the year. What I will say is my biggest concern, if I'm the Knicks, is OG Anunoby, who's had injury issues for years. He's your core piece. You see any Knicks fan talking there like, yo, with OG, we're going to be able to lock down Tatum. We can switch him onto Brown. Whoever OG's not guarding, we can put Mikal Bridges onto. Cool. 2K, that works great. Real life, OG's missed a lot of games recently, and he missed a lot of games for you last year. There's even been, I remember reading a report, I don't know who it's from, I need to find it. If I do find it, I'll cite it in the comments. That was like, yo, the Knicks could end up regretting this OG deal just because of his injury history, and he's getting older. There's a lot of wear and tear on that body. If he's not healthy, by the time you get to a conference finals when you face Boston, if that's when it happens, you're screwed. What's the point in having it? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, on paper, it might be the strongest five, which I also disagree with. But in reality, there's a lot of question marks.
And I mean, it's valid to have the question marks to a certain extent. And by the way, I did just send you the article. I believe is it Eric Pincus or Eric Pinchus of Bleacher Report?
Sorry, I'm still getting over this cold. It was Eric Pincus from Bleacher Report. Thank
Yes,
you
okay.
very much. Yeah.
No, I got you. And I think, yeah, OG is an example of like one of those premier defensive wings. And if he's not going to be healthy, then it's a whole problem. And the Celtics faced the same issue with Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, having to make tough decisions with their roster in order to put themselves in a better position to win. And I think this Knicks team has done a lot, but you're putting a lot of stock into him being healthy and him being there. And, player health is so crucial. I think looking at this conference finals run that the Knicks, or semifinals run that they had ultimately came down to injuries. And you look at other teams like the Pacers, losing Tyrese Halliburton when they did, that was tough. Or, not having Mitchell Robinson or Julius Randle in the playoffs, that killed the Knicks. Or even the situation with, Donovan Mitchell getting, hurt and having him battling through issues. And that I plugged this in only because I really wanted to talk about, how these injuries kind of can change things. It completely changes the trajectory going back to managing minutes. And it ties into one of these other points of disrespect, which was Richard Jefferson saying some outlandishly irresponsible stuff about Jayson Tatum. Always, man. Always.
And like, I'm a big fan of former players in the media, right? They can give such a great perspective, but some of them say some stupid shit, right? And maybe that's bias from us because they're talking about players that we kind of have like that gravity towards, we've seen develop. So we are maybe a little bit biased or a little bit overprotective. I question myself with that all the time. But this just, to me, was outrageous. And some people will agree with Richard Jefferson. Some people will agree with us. Quote was, if you take Jayson Tatum off the Celtics and put Donovan Mitchell there, they still win and he still averages 25 points a game. Okay. No. How about no? How about them apples? For one, you're taking a guard and putting him in place of a forward. Now, Tatum was the primary ball handler for pretty much the entire postseason, primary playmaker, a top-level rebounder, great help defender, and was creating offense. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell's going to get 25 points a game. Yeah, the Celtics could probably still win because the floor spacing that's around there, but it's not as easy as that. The Celtics held their opponent. The Celtics played 19 postseason games. They held teams under 100 points in 11 of those 19 games. You don't do that with a free guard lineup of Drew, Derek, and Donovan, with Brown sliding up to the 4 and then KP or Horford. It doesn't work like that. Your defense takes a massive hit. Your playmaking takes a massive hit because Donovan needs the ball in his hands. Tatum can play off ball. He's a great screen guard. He knows how to cut. He knows when to hit, like, chill in the post. Donovan can't do those things, and he's also nowhere near the same level as defender as Tatum, nowhere near the same level as rebounder. Things don't look the same, and to say that just so outlandishly and be like, yo, this is what would happen? Nah, fam. Like, again, maybe on 2K, when you hit that sim button and it goes through. But I'm not a big fan of free guard lineups in the postseason anyway, unless two of those guards are like Steph and Clay. When, you know what I'm saying? Or you've got Shai, Donovan Mitchell, and I don't know, you want to put Jalen Brunson in there, maybe it can work, but I doubt it. I really do doubt it. I think that you take Donovan Mitchell and put him on that Celtics team in place of Jayson Tatum, and they struggle very badly against probably the Cavs, because the Cavs would have to not be able to go double big if they were healthy. And I'm assuming if Mitchell's there, then Tatum's in Cleveland. And I don't know. I think you lose in the semifinals.
Yeah. And I think And again, this isn't a knock on Donovan Mitchell either. I think there's an
I love me
understanding.
some Donovan
Yeah,
Mitchell.
he's an amazing offensive player. You saw that kind of firepower. We saw it before in Utah. Some of those playoff runs that he was just putting the team on his back, especially like on the scoring end. And it was very similar during this Cavs run. But again, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You can't just take one player who plays a completely different position and then expect the same results. Or, yeah, of course, yeah, Donovan Mitchell's going to have no problems getting buckets. That was never a question during his career. Oh, can Donovan Mitchell get me 25 points a game? Yes, he can. That's not the point of the conversation there, though, Richard. Like, you're talking about just subbing these guys in and out like they're just parts, and it's just that's
2K.
not what it is. They're
We're in
two
GM
different
mode.
they're two different, like, it's square peg round hole. Like, you're talking about moving these guys around as if it's, done in a vacuum, and it's just not. These are two very different players, and they have different skill sets. Obviously, you play different positions and they're different sizes. That impacts things, but, like, it's pretty clear cut. Like, why are you can say one guy's really good, and I think if I put him in this situation, he would be as good, or he would also succeed. But you don't have to do it by pulling somebody else down there.
No.
There was no need to make that. No one was like, "Hey, like, what's going on with this comparison?" Like, no one asked for that comparison. No one asked for that
You
comp.
should. I'm a big believer that when you compare players, we need to do it positionally because there's so many nuances and caveats that go into this discussion. When you're like, "Oh, Jayson Tatum's better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar," well, how? Because they play two completely different roles. They play vastly different parts of the floor. Their whole remit is different. So how? Do you know what I'm saying? We need to. I prefer to be like, who's the best forward? Who's the best guard? Who's the best wing? Whatever. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was just the first name that came to my head. I think I was reading something about him earlier. So if you're going to take issue with that, it was literally, I just pulled a name out of the air and that was what came to me.
It's not serious. Parody, not actionable.
Please don't come for me for that one.
Please don't. We love Kareem.
I do. But what I'm getting at is when you're comparing guys, comparing cross position, I know it's a positionless game now, but Donovan Mitchell is not a forward. He's not going to play that role. You're not going to ask him to do what you asked Tatum to do. It's just not going to happen. So to say that so outlandishly, so confidently, you know what annoys me the most? When people are confidently wrong. When you're just blatantly wrong, but with confidence. So it's like, well, people will believe me because I'm confident about it. No, motherfucker, that don't work. Confidently wrong is so frustrating. I'm confidently wrong a lot and I have to look in the mirror about it. It's a little bit of self-awareness there. You know what I'm saying?
A moment of self-reflection.
All the time, dude. I'd always try and reflect on like what I'm doing and whether I'm portraying myself correctly. And most of the time the answer is no, but I try. And, God loves a trier.
A for effort.
A for effort, dude. Yeah, I'm not fucking with this either. All three of these quotes, I know that we handpicked them, so a little bit disingenuous to be like, these three quotes, but they're trash, dude.
They said them. It's
They
not
said
we're not fabricating it. It's there. It exists. We
can
have
go
the
find them.
records.
What I want to know now is, and for anyone that's made it this far, you're a trooper. Jump in the comments, man. I want to see what I want to see what comments got made that triggered you the most. So if you're watching this video at this point, let me know what comments throughout the entire summer that have been said pissed you off. Because then I want to dive in. We got some time. We can do some videos on
Sink
this.
our teeth into it. We still got to cover some stuff for media day. So, like, we're chewing every bit of this up. We're gonna run with this content while we can. So yeah, throw us some stuff.
I want to know. So whatever pissed you off this summer, even if it was something we said, something I said, something I wrote,
Sure.
I don't care. Like, just tell me. It's funny. And like, if I've pissed you off, then I want to know. But mainly from the media, right? From like the new media, as they like to call themselves. Let me know. I'm intrigued. Tim, anything else you got to say, bro?
I got nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to end with this. My power rankings are out on Celtics Chronicle. Go subscribe. Links in the description below. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We've picked up a bunch of subscribers on the last video. I'd like to see that continue. More subscribers, closer we get to making money. More money we make, more videos we do. It works.
Mhm.
That's kind of how it works. Follow us on socials over on Twitter. And it is Twitter. I don't care what people say. At Adam Taylor NBA, at Tim Sheils NBA. And we love y'all. We'll catch you later in the week. Deuces.
Cheers.
There we go. That was fun.
Well,
I